Live from TMC. This is Pastor Eric, and I'm sitting here with Pastor Andy in his 1702 hat.
It's mostly my hat.
We pastor Village and Mission Church, respectively, and we just did a podcast talking about your dad, talking about my daughter.
Yeah. Hospitals.
Your new book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hospital visiting.
Hospital visiting.
We even touched on that mythical union, the Village and the Mission Church, doing some endeavor long into the future.
Yep. Though that has not been approved by anybody within any of our circles. Disclaimer.
Yeah, no authority has been exercised.
Yeah, but we're here at the cafeteria of the hospital because Eric's daughter has just had surgery, and she's so far coming through that, doing well, though still in pain. But we, thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoy the podcast.
Yeah. It's a little weird doing it at the hospital.
It is a little weird doing it at the hospital. This is Andy and Eric, and we are doing Faith Over Breakfast at the hospital.
That's right.
It's always a little weird to be recording out at breakfast, but this is especially
right. Usually we're up in a loft.
We're up in a loft. Here we're just sort of sitting by some nurses and. I don't know. People probably think we're taking medical records on this microphone.
Right.
Because we look like doctors.
I definitely look like a doctor.
You do look like a doctor.
An emergency room doctor.
Anyway, well, you have a name tag.
I have a name tag.
That makes sense.
Helps.
So this is Faith Over Breakfast, normally from XO Coffee, and today from the Tucson Medical Center cafeteria.
Yeah. Here we are, and you're eating an omelet, which you apparently have eaten quite a bit of.
I've eaten a lot of these very omelets.
Right.
And you still went to Brugger's.
Yes, my wife wanted me to bring her a bagel.
Okay, so you went down the street to Brugger's.
Yeah, like early in the morning.
Oh, yeah?
Because my wife spent the night here. There's no way I'm going to be able to sleep here. I'd just stay up all night.
Right.
Wouldn't work, so...
Yeah, I don't think I could have slept here either. So, I got a cup of Folgers with some hazelnut creamer in it. And
you're good to go.
Good to go.
And I actually, to be honest with you, I am down to this much, which is, I don't know how much that is. You can tell the audience.
A quarter inch.
Quarter inch of espresso in the morning, and that's it.
Really?
Not even any decaf. So I get my cup and I fill it with water.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's almost like I need
something that tastes like coffee for a second.
Looks like the cup.
Oh.
So now I do the shot at home because I, about 3 years ago, went to a thrift store and found an espresso machine for $15.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like a really good espresso machine. So I went online to look it up. Lo and behold, they do not sell them in the United States.
Whoa, is it Italian?
It's an Italian espresso machine, and the low-end version of it costs $800. But on eBay, they were going for as much as $1,500. And when I started reading up on them, they're what every Italian person has in their kitchen. Like, it's like standard. This is how you get your morning espresso, and it's an amazing machine. Super amazing.
Sweet.
And so
I also have an espresso machine at home, and I went hunting and bought one for like $400.
Nice.
Like on Craigslist, I got like the $800 one for $400, and then I went to the Goodwill 3 years later, and there was one for $19.99 that was missing the drip tray, and I was like, hey, is this drip tray sitting around somewhere? The lady's like, I don't know, but you can have it for 50% off. So I bought the same machine at the Goodwill for $10, but I already had one. So it was like I couldn't leave it there. I was like,
No, you
no,
can't
this
leave-
is a really nice
You
machine.
can't leave an $800 espresso machine. Like, what got me is, like, who goes to a thrift store
Yeah.
who must have paid $1,000 for the espresso
Yeah,
machine
I'm
and
sure.
drops it off?
Yeah.
Like, what are they thinking? I don't want an espresso. I don't know. I don't want to give this away to my family.
I think there's some consumer culture stuff here. You buy something for no matter how much money, and you just sits around, and eventually the wife just goes, "Look, we're taking this to the thrift store." Or you got it for Christmas. The family was like, "They're gonna love it,"
Right.
and you don't, and you just take it to the thrift store.
Wow. I just don't know if I could take $1,000 espresso machine to the thrift store.
You know what's worse? There are a lot of people. So I'm like, no, we got to take that. Like, there's a pair of jeans that don't fit me.
Right.
And, in the past, my wife's like, I'm going to throw that in the trash. I'm like, no. Good jeans. Like, we got to make a bag and take that to the thrift store.
Right.
I'll bet you there are people who would just throw it in the trash.
Right.
And I just don't.
You can't do
Boggles
it.
No, I can't do it.
Now, if I got like a $4 Target deal shirt, I'm not taking it to the thrift store if it doesn't fit me anymore. I might
Right.
use it for a rag and eventually throw it away.
Yeah.
But I'm not taking it to the thrift store.
If I have a bag going, I would add it to the bag.
Right.
But I would also I think about we can use this for a rag and then it ends up in the trash. But I feel like it's had this other life as a rag once or whatever.
Right.
But that
It
still
has
helps me.
A second life.
A second
to
life.
your shirt.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some spiritual significance to wanting to give things second lives, right?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So tell everybody why you're here. Why are you at Tucson Medical Center?
I'm at Tucson Medical Center because Ashton, my daughter, who's 16 years old, just had major surgery on her back for her scoliosis to straighten her back out. And this is the second day. So yesterday was day 0 and everything went well, and she can move all her appendages, which is obviously a worry when you mess with somebody's spinal cord or spinal column or whatever. So that was cool that all worked. And now she's just trying to survive the pain and get ready to go home. Mm-hmm. And she's in a lot of pain, and she's kind of groggy, and she's a trooper though. She still has her sense of humor.
Yeah, good.
So that's
How long do you expect to be in the hospital here?
Either Friday or Saturday is when we'll be going home.
Really?
Yeah. So it's a while because she's got to wean off pain meds, be able to sit up, be able to walk.
Yeah.
So they move her along. So yeah, it's not easy watching your child in pain, and there's nothing you can do but just sit and watch while they get her all adjusted, and then and there you are with her. So
oh man, yeah, I can. That'd be really tough. I mean, I had a hard time when my daughter broke a tooth. That's
your daughter broke a tooth.
Yeah, when she
a
was
lot of people
little.
have broken teeth.
She fell face planted.
Yeah.
It was, and she was just crying so loud. Yeah, but that was a long time ago.
Right.
But that was so much more difficult for me than I would have assumed. Seeing her in that pain. And and so this type of surgery, it was so hard. Yeah, when I was walking in, so I'm familiar with these omelets and everything because my dad many of you listen along know my dad passed away in November, and this is the hospital where we were. So I just walked by where he took his last walks now on the way in. He would come out and walk around with all the stuff hooked up to him, and so I just walked by that on the way in. So when you said you were here, part of me was okay, I actually sort of want to go there, but then there was another part of me that was
no.
I've been kind of avoiding. I drive by this hospital all the time, but I haven't really been looking at it. I don't know. You ever do that? I know that's there, but I just don't want to think about that too much. So.
Right, well, I think about that more dirty places in my house where I'm just walking by them and be I don't think we're going to clean that room out.
Mm-hmm. If I don't look, I don't have to deal with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why don't you just do it?
Yeah. That's been And that's been my feeling here. There's some new neighbors here. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to jump into our podcast.
Yeah.
So
I should invite them over.
Yeah. Talk to us about stuff.
So, so that's why I'm familiar with this.
Yeah.
This place.
So this is kind of therapeutic. I mean, we're having therapy right now.
Yeah, but you're going to be the therapist, but you're the one whose daughter is here.
Yeah.
So you don't get to take the therapist role.
I don't get to take the therapist
We're
role?
just friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So stop it.
Okay. Is that the most controversy we're going to have on this show?
Yeah. Don't ask any probing questions, Eric.
No probing
Stop
questions,
it.
no controversies.
Yeah.
No, but I can certainly imagine that when walking by is difficult. I mean, I think even just it's not. Mark and Lane had a big party at their house, and Mark and Lane actually lived 2 doors down from where Sue grew up. Her parents owned the house for 38 years.
Yeah,
they moved out maybe 5 years ago, I think. But all my memories are there of dating her, of walking with her. Like everything is in that house.
Yeah,
and now that Grandma is gone, it's even more weighty to like pull into that. Same road that I pulled into ever since I was 18 years old.
Wow.
It just brings back all this. So I can understand, like, coming here. Like, you were here for 6 weeks, he was here? Or off and on?
He went home for a little bit, and then, but not very long. And then they moved him over to the hospice, which is on the same property here.
Yeah, I've been to the hospice.
Yeah, between all that, about 6 weeks.
So that's a lot of habit.
A lot of time here.
Pulling in.
Yeah, there really was.
Walking to the...
Yeah.
Starting to recognize everything, and the smells.
Well, this is a unique hospital because there's a lot of outdoor space. It's like a sprawling hospital where they have to get you around with golf carts and stuff like that. But so I actually kind of don't remember. It's hard to keep straight. Like, where do I go? So I didn't know I was going to walk by that spot where he would take the walk. So it didn't dawn on me. I was just coming to the cafeteria and I was like, oh, yeah, there's that. There it is. There's the bench. There's the spot. So yeah.
This is my meal for the day.
Yeah, kind of. It's good though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Here we are. So I saw something on Facebook that was very interesting. They're writing a book. It's a good transition about your dad. And so you're like becoming that pastor who writes a book.
That pastor who writes a book. Yeah, I guess.
How do you feel about being that pastor who writes a book?
I'm actually really, really self-conscious about all of that. And actually, like, putting out that, like, Facebook post and everything about, like, writing the book, like, self-conscious for a lot of reasons. Like, self-conscious that I'm going to do that, and, like, people are going to read something that I wrote in general, and just, I don't know, like, I'm not, like, a trained writer, and so there's that. And then I'm self-conscious because it's going to be really personal, and, like, and then I think just going, like, will anybody care? Like, if I put really personal things out there, and then does it matter? Like, I think, obviously, like, a lot of this is something I just need to do. But then I kept feeling like I think this would be, like, good for others to, like it's, my dad was just a unique guy, and his perspectives on life just fly against, like, what we think of as, like, great men.
Right.
And that's what I like about it. That's why I want to share it. But then I'm nervous that people are going to be like, this is some guy, like, just kind of writing him as dad. Who cares?
Right.
And then the third layer of it is, because I'm trying to raise funding for it, is like, are people going to be like, this is stupid? Like, why would I give money to this?
Right.
So
are you starting, like, a Kickstarter campaign for it? Or?
Indiegogo,
okay.
Basically. So it's like Kickstarter, except with Kickstarter, kind of like the stakes are a little higher, because if you don't raise your money, you don't get anything, and everybody gets a refund. And whereas with Indiegogo, they leave space for, like, well, you might adjust your project if you got less money, so you can still, if you don't raise it all, you still get what you raise to use toward your project.
And do they do like they take a percentage, or how do they?
There's a percentage, yeah.
Okay.
But they help like legitimize it, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I had to think about all that. Like, do I just go out and just ask people for money outside of something like this and just go like, hey, just help me do this, you know, like help me have this experience where I write and then I publish. But that felt worse to me than like the Indiegogo. At least like what you're doing is you're making promises. You're saying you will get a book. And like there are like layers of that. Like you'll get a book and a gift. You'll get a book and a gift and an experience. Or you know, like we're all in.
You'll get to be on the podcast to discuss the book with Andy and Aaron.
I could add a perk. You could be on the podcast.
Yeah,
I could do that.
You should do that. Why not? We don't.
Why not?
What are we?
Yeah. So like one of the perks is like. It's like my dad stuff. Like my dad was really into flannel, like and made in USA flannels.
Made in USA flannel.
So like one of the perks is if you give way more money than a flannel is worth, you get a book and another item, and I will personally find you a made in USA flannel at a thrift store,
nice.
Which is very my dad, and which I would really enjoy doing for whoever might be interested in that, if anybody is. But the idea is like you're investing, you're helping me out, but also like I'm gonna give you something in return, because I've done this. There was a hip hop artist who wrote a book, and I was kind of interested in his journey, and so I paid more. I got the book, and I don't know if it was worth it, like the amount of money, but I felt cool because I got to support him, and I did get something, and then another hip hop artist in town did, I got like the album and the shirt and the hat kind of thing.
Okay.
And he did that to raise money to make an album. So I've supported such things. So my hope was that, some folks might be like, oh, sweet, like I can get things and help him get this thing done.
Yeah, now, what that means is you have to actually write a book.
I did, yeah.
And so that's
a thing.
That's a thing. You're going to have to come through on the promise. That's
right.
Why it would kind of terrify me to commit to something like that financially. It's got to come through.
Yeah, that's true.
But where can people go if they want to support this?
Yeah, if you go to Indiegogo and type in The Little Man, that's the name of the book. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, you could type it in and then you could see everything. And I should say, like, this isn't just like theoretical, like completely. Like I've written about 8 chapters.
Oh, you've already written 8 chapters.
I've already started. Yeah. So and I had started before I decided.
You banged out 8 chapters. How many chapters is going to be in this book?
I don't know. I'm not sure yet.
How far into this life have you gotten?
Into this life?
In this life of your father.
I mean, decent. Like, so I did a bunch of trips to Bisbee, and I was writing. So actually, this all starts with.
You like to write.
I like to write. No, I really like to write. Okay. Like when I was in high school, the classes where they would give you free writing time were really like I enjoyed that, and so I like it.
Well, that's where you and I diverged from each other. Huh.
Yeah, Rod and I talked about this, and Rod was like, "Yeah, I like to write." Yeah, yeah. Whereas
I would like to write.
You think you should write, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's too much work. I like to dictate.
Yeah. Yeah, I love, and I can write pretty freely and then come back to it. So, I'll have to get it edited, which is probably going to be very key in my case, because it'll just be, I'm just going to kind of go.
Yeah, that's good. Now, are you going to do this through Nick's publishing company? Or?
Yeah, I think so. And that's the plan. And that's what I'm hoping, if that all works out well. And it sounds like it should. Cool. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. So Nick, co-pastor at the church, he and another guy at the church kind of got a fledgling publishing company. But I'd love to do it, and I can be patient with that process. And I'm promising it in a year. I actually think I'll probably get it done before then.
Cool.
But that means I'm not on this like tight timeline, since it's also like partially a grief process and stuff like that. So I didn't want to like push that. But the first chapter I actually wrote about, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago. And it was while my dad was, as far as we knew, completely healthy.
Yeah.
And I wrote this. I just was thinking about him and like kind of how I felt about him. And so I wrote this chapter, and my thought was like, Well, my first thought was, I think this is interesting. Like, I think this might be good to share. But then my next thought was, oh, he would be so embarrassed. Like, if I share this, it's going to have to be when he's not here.
Right.
Like, he would personally be uncomfortable with it. Not like he'd think it was, like, he would be like, don't do that. But it'd be like, oh, like, I don't want people to look at me or something, you know. So I'd written it and just kind of stuck it on the shelf, and then once we found out he had cancer and he died, like somewhere later on I was like, oh, I wrote that. And so I took several trips to Bisbee, which is where he was born and graduated from high school. And every time I've gone there, I've just kept writing, and that's the 8 chapters, like, because I've written on like a theme every time, and that's been helpful for me. So it kind of just started realizing, like,
nope, you got a book.
There's something coming together.
That's
here.
Awesome. Well, that's even better than saying you're going to write a book and you don't have anything written. Like,
right.
You already have a chunk of stuff.
There's a chunk of stuff.
So this could happen.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting.
And I've got sabbatical time from the church, which is also like, and that was coming before I realized what was happening with my dad too. But it makes a lot of sense to press into that as part of my sabbatical time. So I'm going to go to Oregon, which is where I was born and where my dad met my mom, and it was his favorite, like, small town. So I'm going to go there and on that journey write
some more.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
So I've been brainstorming how to make that meaningful and fun. So
yeah.
So any supporting of that would be a huge deal to me, and also I will indeed get you books or a concrete Ford F-250 or a flannel or all these different things I put up there.
That's awesome. And maybe throw up a podcast.
And I might
join our podcast. And it doesn't even have to be about the book. You can just talk about what you want to talk about.
You can talk about whatever you want.
We might censor some of it, but you can talk about it.
It might be the first one we edit.
Yeah. On a different subject, I told you after the last podcast that I'd gotten that something from a realtor, that church building was for sale. I think 4th and Rosemont, I think it was. Yeah. And it was like $500,000.
Yeah.
Well, just this week I got another thing from the realtor, and they dropped it $100,000. So it is now $425,000.
Whoa.
I was like, wow. If it keeps going down, this joint venture that we talked about last week
could actually have some
that nobody has approved. Or
we should throw that out there.
Or done anything like that.
Yeah, our leadership is not involved in this discussion. This is like the disclosure. Like, the views expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of our church leaders or anyone else in the world, or necessarally God,
or reality.
We're just talking,
but anyway,
but it is a cool thought.
Yeah, and the fact that it's already, like, it just went down $100,000 in a week.
So they must have, like, somebody must have gotten back to him and said, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. It has a new roof, has a new AC system built onto it, but those are two big deals.
Major
when
stuff.
Buying a church.
Major stuff.
New roof and AC.
Yeah,
that's new, man.
How many years did you live in Arizona without air conditioning at your building?
Well, I think for most of our history, we've had no air conditioning. So we're talking 15 years.
Man, so you guys broke all the rules of Tucson church planting. Right?
Yes.
Like, during the summer, it's going to be hot.
It's going to be hot. Well, you guys had swamp coolers too, because I've been to your service.
Both of our churches before the merger were swamp cooled.
It's
hot, and then
crazy, and people still come.
And then the other church had no heat. We at least had heat. They didn't have heat, so in the winter you're bringing blankets, in the summer you're sweating it out. And now our new space, we've got 2 over in the main space.
Yeah.
2 good condition working air conditioners, heaters. It's
awesome. I bet you. Yeah. Your bill's going to be a little different.
It's going to change our bill.
Yeah.
But then again, man, it's just been so comfortable in there, so nice. Like, people have been, on Sunday, somebody was cold, and I was just like, somebody's cold? It's hot outside. Somebody
Yes.
here is cold.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to go out and invest in some blankets.
And now we're gonna have to get
That's
blankets,
what
better
yeah.
thermostats or something.
Yeah. Oh, good luck with that, because some people are still going to be hot, and some
it'll-
people are going to be cold.
It'll never
It's-
be.
no,
Yeah.
you can never make everybody happy in those things, but
We still need an air conditioner for 2 rooms. 2 rooms aren't controlled. They had an old swamp on 2 rooms that we haven't figured out yet. But by and large, we got a good system going at our new place. But yeah, that new roof, new ACs, that's
yeah.
huge.
This is like compelling podcast information or radio or whatever you call it, Mike. I don't know. It's compelling. Air conditioning, roofs,
Yeah.
churches.
Oh yeah, we've got a headline for this one.
We have.
Let me tell you.
I honestly, like, my brain is sort of fried from having a daughter in surgery,
Yeah.
and yeah, so it's sort of, it's hard for me to think about much,
I bet.
you know.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
know that feeling.
But we are.
Well, here I was gonna ask.
Will you ask me a question?
I'll-
Yeah, that's good. You can do that.
I'll ask you stuff.
Okay.
As a pastor, so you're in the hospital for family,
Yes.
and there's that. But you've been in the hospital with folks many times. So how do you feel about hospitals? What's yeah,
Well, I worked at a hospital for 5 years,
okay.
so I went there every day. Well, not every day, but
So you kind of knew the rules.
yeah,
in a
I don't
way,
like
though.
it. I dreaded going to work every day. Once I
Really?
got there, it was okay. I don't like the smell. I don't like the sense of. It's just.
The sterile.
Yeah, I
like,
didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
So becoming a pastor was very difficult. I don't like to go visit people in the hospital, not because I don't like them and I don't mind
Right.
being in the room with them, but it's just the whole experience of getting there and walking in, and
Yeah.
and there's something very invasive about being like working in a hospital. Like, you're always invading people's privacy, and then
Yeah.
if you're there, you're always having your privacy be invaded.
Yeah.
And so it's just not a place you think, oh yeah, I'd like to go to the hospital. So it's difficult walking in and spending time with people.
Yeah.
I'm not, when I'm in the hospital, I'm not one to enjoy, I don't like a lot of people visiting me,
I don't either.
because
Yeah.
I just feel like it feels a little overwhelming. It feels
Yeah.
like I got to entertain people.
And you're at this point of like your butt's hanging out of the back of your robe, and you're plugged into stuff, and you haven't brushed your teeth lately.
Right. Yeah. It's just kind of. Yeah. I mean, last time I was in the hospital, Rod came to visit me, and they had to do one of those like bruise check to make sure
Yeah.
you're. And I was just like, I don't care, just take it, And so there I am, half naked in front of my co-pastor, because I just at that point you're like,
What difference does it
what
make?
difference does it make?
Yeah. I'm with you. And I know like there are people who would like want everybody to come to the
Yeah.
hospital when they're there, and so it's hard for me to remember that there are people that I would minister to that feel very differently, or you've got to gauge like, does this person want to visit? Do they not want to visit?
Yeah.
What do they want this visit to be like? Do they want me to be to come in and give some kind of spiritual insight, or do they just want me there just for comfort, just to be around, just as a friend? Who taught you how to do that? As a
Well,
pastor?
nobody. I've had to watch Rod.
Yes.
Rod loves to go to the hospital.
I
And
was
so
going to say there are pastors who like,
just love it.
Love it.
And
I
he
had
does most of our visits.
Yeah. And his wife's a nurse.
Yes.
So is mine.
Yes.
So I'm a little more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Over the past 5 years. Yeah.
And I've learned a lot over the last couple of years of just listening to Corey, who's one of our other elders, but he's a chaplain
Oh yeah.
at St. Joe. So he visits tons and tons of people all the time. And he is just really good at walking into a room, assessing where people are at, praying over them, asking them
Yeah.
good questions. He's not really afraid to sort of mix it up a little bit with the family,
Yeah.
and just respond to however they're acting, and so I think that's cool. I think the hard part for me is as my church has gotten bigger, like, you're asked the question, what exactly am I supposed to do? Like,
Yeah.
there are multiple pastors and elders at our church, and we have tons of babies. So am I supposed to visit every person who has a baby?
Right.
Am I supposed to be at the hospital bed every time somebody's in the hospital?
And there are certain assumptions. I think they might be diminishing. Maybe this is a gift from the megachurch, right? Is because megachurch pastors aren't going to be there when you have a baby.
Right.
But there are some assumptions if you come from like the small church background that like the pastor will do everything, like,
Right.
and including like every baby that's born, every time you're in the hospital, if you stub your toe, he will be showing up, involved in that. Yeah, and that you just can't. Most people can't manage that.
Right.
I can't. I mean, I can't stay on top of that with everybody.
Right. And so I kind of like, we have families in our church, especially when it comes to the babies.
Yeah.
Like when their first baby, I really try to be there for the first baby.
Yeah.
By the fourth baby, I'm like, you had a fourth baby. Congratulations. Yeah. I'll see the baby. And
when you come back.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Or, maybe I'll sign up for a meal if there's an empty space, and then I'll come see the baby. But it's a lot.
Yeah. And you're right in saying, like, we got other people. Because, I mean, this whole community's here. And some people are really great at the hospital and knowing and going there and doing stuff for babies. Like, if I signed up for the meal for the baby, like, I would put, just knowing myself, I mean, I've showed up to potlucks before where what I brought was Lucky Wishbone garlic bread, and I thought that was a really good idea. I was psyched.
Yeah, you're not the person to sign up for those things.
No, you don't. Yeah, people roll their eyes when I bring food.
Huh.
Anyway.
As a side note.
So you really want me to... You just had a baby. You went through all this. You really want me coming in with a can of green beans and some garlic bread from Lucky Wishbone?
Speaking of Lucky Wishbone, I have not been there since I was 5 years old.
Oh. It will destroy any healthy decisions you've made, but it's so good every once in a while.
Really?
I think Lucky Wishbone, which if you're outside of Tucson, you're like, what's that?
Lucky Wishbone?
It is a fast food chain that never outgrew Tucson, and it's still here, basically, right? Like back from the 50s, 40s, 50s, something like that.
I don't even know who owns it. I've never even...
I don't know. I don't know. I've read, because they have little articles up, but it was founded in the 40s or 50s, I think the 50s, and it was like when fast food was new. Yeah. And they were like, we're going to make this easily accessible food that people can just drive up and take home to their family, and it's chicken strips, chicken fingers, steak fingers. Like they have liver and
they have liver?
I think they've got liver.
Wow.
And this shows just how not good of a Tucsonan I am, because if we had certain people that I could think of here, they would be listing off exactly everything that they have in all the sizes, because the meal sizes are like mom and pop.
Okay.
And like
interesting.
Yeah. Like they aren't large and supersized. They've got mom, pop, stuff like that. But yeah, you always get garlic bread, garlic toast, like with your meal, and there's a Lucky Wishbone sauce. And just like, and I like the fries. So like a little, like the small meal, steak fingers or chicken fingers with a mix of the two with some fries and that piece of garlic bread and the sauce. Oh,
and the 2,000 calorie lunch that you eat.
And you are, and it's bad. It's all fried and it's like so fried. It's not just fried, it's so fried.
It's so fried, they fry their garlic bread.
Yeah, but but I love it.
Wow. I may have to try. It just scares me to go. I don't know.
Oh, don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
Just don't go very often. Just once. My rule is once a year.
Once a year, you get a Lucky Wishbone.
I haven't been there yet this year, so but I kind of don't want to use it frivolously.
Yeah, you can't do that.
I want it to be a good moment
where
I can sit and just. And it's like, and you can't sit inside in most of them. Like, well, sorry. The one I always think of on Campbell. It's like there's a couple chairs inside, but you got to sit on a picnic table outside. Yes. So it really was designed to like take your food and leave.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of a little bit like Luke's used to be. I mean, Luke's is kind of diminished onto almost nothing
they
now.
sold all or most of them.
But they were relatively famous and okay. Like, but man, you could only go there once, like a year, because you were going to pay for it that night.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
But
Luke's was Chicago style, so they are like solid, like Chicago dog, Italian beef,
Yeah.
and like I think it was the Italian beef came with the fries were wrapped in the sandwich,
Yes.
and so the juices, so great.
It was good, and if you go to them now, they're not as good as they used to be.
Well, I went into one and I overheard a meeting where they were getting all their supplies at Costco to save money, and it was just like, nope, violation. Like, sorry, like when you're like going to be the legit Chicago spot, you can't do that. You got to go.
You got to figure out how to get it.
You got to get
legit.
the Nathan's dog or whatever. You got to
Yeah.
stick with that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's maybe we can turn this into just a Tucson restaurant review.
Yeah.
by Eric and Andy.
That'd be cool. I'd be into that.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody.
Yeah. And we may
listened
have to
Faith
go
and
somewhere
Breakfast.
else other than EXO
Or the hospital.
or the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, I was thinking. Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
well, so I was just gonna. So you picked up on Rod's wisdom on hospital
Yes.
visits, and you've kind of let other people in the community.
Yeah. In fact, we just had a meeting recently where it was like, I was like, okay, we need to communicate a little better, like, because all 3 pastors don't have to visit one person in a hospital. So if you're going, like,
Yeah.
so who's the point guy to all visits? And then if you can't make it, you need to say, hey, somebody needs to go visit.
Yeah.
Instead of me thinking, well, I don't know, who's visited this person? I need to go do that. When am I going to do that? How do I fit that in my schedule? That kind of thing. So,
And I tend to think of, like, in the church, like, there are some people who, like, me showing up would probably be really good and meaningful. But for somebody else, it might be just, like, this other couple in the church that they really know well. Like, maybe that would be great.
yeah.
And it probably just depends on, everybody's different.
Well, my favorite thing is to show up and hear that, like, there's already been 10 villagers that
Yeah.
visit. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just one of the villagers.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah, that is.
They're already
is-
doing the pastoring, and I can just be a church member in some way. And
Yeah.
just come and say, hey, how are you doing? Pray for you. And
And I think a hard part for me is exactly what you mentioned, that I don't usually, like, I would want a small number of visitors. They're, like, I mean, I'm trying to think, if I'm in the hospital, like, I would like a couple people there time to time, but I wouldn't want to be always, like, having people come in and see me in this state. And,
Yeah.
like, so I assume sort of subtly that other people might feel that way.
right. Well, I also think it depends on, like, if you have big families,
Yeah.
and your family's always there, and they're super involved, and then you have more friends. I mean, it just becomes a little crazy.
It can be crazy.
Yeah.
But then there's also, when you have the big family, they can talk to the visitors, and it doesn't have to be all the person in the bed,
Yes.
which is also helpful, because when it's all the person in the bed, like, you're like, oh, hey, oh, yeah, here's what's going on, yeah, my wound is raw under there, yeah, it still is, it's painful.
Yeah.
I am on drugs,
I am on drugs, yes. That's right, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
No, it's totally...
Yeah. So when I was 18, I got my first church job, and
Wow, that's impressive.
I came back from a youth event where a guy had talked about maybe you might be called to ministry, and something clicked, and I was like, I am. I just was like, yes, that's what it is. Like, it just, there was this clarity, and he wasn't even. He was kind of like inviting that, but it just clicked so much with me. So I came back, and it was a small church where we all gave reports on what happened at camp or conference or whatever. So I got up, and I was 18, so I was like, at this point, like a helper. Like, I was the older, I think I just graduated. And I was like, hey, yeah, thanks for sending me, and this one guy talked, and I realized I'm called to ministry, and I'd really like to work here. Like, if there's anything I could do, just let me know. And which I look back was like kind of crazy that I just went for it.
That's definitely what a leader is, though. I mean, I have those
goes
stories
for it. Yeah.
where I'm just like, hey, I think this is what I'm called to do. Like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Can I do something?
Yeah. Yeah. Which, and so interestingly, the pastor had just resigned, older guy, retiring, and they were looking for a new pastor, and so they actually were like, "Oh, okay, low cost."
18-year-old.
Yeah.
Make him our pastor now. I think you might have been the youngest. That would have made you the youngest head pastor ever.
Yeah, no, they did not make me the head pastor, thankfully. But they gave me this kind of random smattering of jobs, which included like logging all the attendance and doing the announcements on Sunday and playing the bongos and cutting the grass and helping with the youth group and visiting people in the hospital.
Interesting.
When I was 18.
18. So you really cut your teeth on this.
Yeah.
That's where you began.
Yeah, that's where I began. And like with, and I think there was a
Can we stop here
music
for a second,
director
though? I
who
want to
came
stop.
with me.
Like,
Yeah.
so here we go. Isn't that like the perfect pastoral training? Like, do you see what you get?
Yeah.
Bongo drumming,
Uh-huh.
grass mowing.
Yeah.
Like these are
You're
essential
all
things.
over the place.
Hospital visiting, announcements, public speaking.
Uh-huh.
You're like getting the whole thing. Like
A little bit of,
I may have
and
to write
logging,
that down.
administration.
That's a great intern list right there. You're not going to get that in seminary. There is no bongo
No.
drumming class.
No.
No lawnmower class.
There is no how to balance lawn mowing, hospital visiting, and bongo drumming,
and youth group all at
and
the same
youth group
time.
all at the same time. Right.
No, and that's serious. I'm making a joke, but that's it right there. That's small church pastoring.
Yeah.
You throw in a sermon or a homily, and a couple elder meetings, you got it.
And then I added, then I managed the food pantry. So then I had to discern, because they told me like people come and just, they do the tour of all the different food pantries and they aren't legitimate. They're just getting free food. And so you got to figure out when they're doing that. So that was definitely true. Especially in that where we were located. I mean, it was like, you started to go, okay, yeah, and you call the church down the street. Yeah, he came here right afterward. Oh, okay. But yeah, and then I added onto that, like working, because kids got out of school in the neighborhood and all sort of flooded the church property. We had a basketball court, and so I started hanging out there and playing basketball. And then I started realizing a lot of the kids weren't doing very well in school, and their parents weren't very attentive. And so I would make them do their homework before I would let them play ball. And so there was like this kind of after-school program thing that occurred. That's 18. That's how
18.
but it was an incredibly helpful
That sounds
intro to ministry.
Yeah, there it is. That's better than a seminary degree.
I think so. Because then, like, when I did like continue forward, I didn't have this glamour thing attached to it.
Right. And you learned how church functions.
Yeah.
Small church functions.
Yeah.
And how you can start ministries and act and
Right.
respond to what's happening around you.
And how you're going to do a whole bunch of random stuff. On
Oh
the
my
side
gosh.
that you would never guess.
I mean, let's talk
I
about
learned
random.
I learned how to lay brick
At
in that job. Somehow we had to lay brick, and I helped facilitate a wedding, a cowboy wedding in somebody's backyard.
okay.
Yeah, just help figure all that out.
How about random odd jobs that you've had to do as a pastor?
Oh man!
Like I rebuilt a urinal.
Rebuilt a urinal.
Yeah, I had to learn how to rebuild a urinal. That was really interesting.
Yeah, I have so many of those that I don't even know where to begin.
What's the most crazy? I mean, I think
The most crazy.
rewiring the panel at the Views with my brother was one of the crazy
That's
one.
pretty crazy. Yeah, I mean, we've been doing all that on this building now, but I have allowed others much more skilled than I to do that. But I have. I mean, I knocked out a large section of a very terrifying to me load-bearing wall and added a room, which was attached to a ministry job that I had, and that was my first time, and I had never done any kind of room addition or anything like that.
Okay.
So that was interesting. I mean, and there was a lot of other work attached to that. Yeah, like I mean, somewhere in the youth room days of the church where I worked for 6 years, and we pulled the whole. We demoed a lot of like the whole ceiling and
Right.
HVAC system and a bunch of electrical and stuff out with a lot of volunteers there. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And I've rehabbed two buildings in the church planning era.
Yeah.
And kind of acted like a sort of general contractor-ish person on all of those.
Have you been doing a job and thought, when I thought of being a pastor, this was not a job I would ever have listed as
once
one
a day.
of them?
All the time. Yeah, because then I mean I get calls sometimes from people in our church that's like, my car's broken down, or like, hey, I need to buy a new car. Which one should I buy? Where do I find it?
Right. I get plumbing calls a lot.
Yeah.
Like trying to troubleshoot plumbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think is going on with this? Yeah. Oh,
You're
yeah.
like, well, I'm going to pray about that. I'll take it back to you.
Let me read to you from the New Testament.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. This is part of just being a small church pastor. I clean the bathrooms. I'm fixing the tile.
Yeah.
Retexturing the roof. Fixing the swamp coolers. Building the urinal.
Yeah.
Rebalancing the toilet.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things.
I've done all sorts of that stuff.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah. No, really crazy. And then I did a whole bunch of, I've built probably 7 or 8 small homes in Mexico, like, been on teams that did that. So there's all sorts of stuff attached to all that. And then rehabbed a church on the San Carlos Indian Reservation.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of really, really crazy stuff that happened with that.
Well, my favorite one, I just remembered, is a couple who I love at our church called me up and they're like, we don't know what to do. Our washing machine is like full of water and it's broken and we can't get it to drain. Can you come over? And so I went over and drained it and repaired the washing machine for them and got it fixed. I'm like, okay, this is my job.
If you didn't have a church, call a plumber.
Right?
But you have a church, so you don't have to do that. No, it's
Well, I don't
true.
think it afforded a plumber. So
No,
yeah,
well, because it is that, like, and the cool thing is within our church, I'm not the only one that gets those calls these
Right.
days,
Well,
as
that's
I'm
good.
sure you're not probably either. Well,
yeah,
you don't
I'm
call
kinda-
Rod for that kind of stuff.
I'm the
though.
most handy.
You're the handy one. Yeah. You call Rod for a story, right?
Yeah, you call Rod for a story or a prayer,
Yeah.
or you need to just vent.
Yeah. Yeah, the dishwasher's flooding everywhere. You call Eric.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think Nick and I both get that.
Yeah, and Nick's
That
pretty
kind of
handy.
stuff. Yeah.
So,
He's handy and very just physically capable. So,
Yes.
if you're like I have a 500, foot boat in the backyard of my new house, and I need one man to grab that and pull it out of the backyard. You
Then
think,
Nick is the man.
You don't think of me.
No, you don't think of Andy. Yeah. Well, this is, I don't know. Are we done with this podcast? How long?
could be.
No, it's only been 46 minutes.
That's not bad.
I was
Thanks for
thinking
hanging out,
before
people.
we end, though, maybe we could talk about some subjects that we'd like to cover. Maybe
okay.
highlight some things we've been thinking about.
Oh, okay.
I know, because we've been thinking about going. The owner of XO has
Yeah.
her grandfather, right?
Yeah,
her grandfather was a preacher.
Yeah, he was a Presbyterian minister in Alaska.
Yeah,
And she's got recordings of 2 of his sermons on an old blue vinyl
Right.
that Eric has digitized, which is cool. And we want to talk with her about her grandpa's sermons, which I think would be
interesting.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Different. I'm
This-
excited about that.
And I thought there were a couple other subjects people wanted us to revisit. I don't know if you.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I don't know. But we're gonna revisit those.
We might just revisit those.
Yeah.
And then when we were walking out of EXO last week, we were talking about, there could be something to, like, how do we interpret difficult texts.
Oh yes, the
and-
difficult text one. Maybe next week we could do how do we interpret difficult text.
Yeah, and I assume like you and I might
Look
have
at them
different
differently.
angles
Oh,
on
yeah.
that, which is I
we
think
can
that's
have a little controversy.
good
That'd be
to talk about.
Little
Yeah.
heated arguments about this.
yeah. And then we'll decide we can't do any ministry together after
Or
this.
no more podcasts.
No more podcasts.
It's done. It's over.
That's it.
Yeah, well, you know.
No, I would love to have that conversation. I think that'd be good. And I assume I would want to hear, because what I'm used to hearing is like here's pastor telling you how he views it or how it should be viewed.
Right.
But every once in a while you see those books or something where it's like here's two different views.
Yes.
And I like that we could exhibit that friends could see things differently.
Yeah, I do like the 2 views or the 4 view books.
Yeah.
Those are good. Where they just present them pretty straightforward and let you kind of figure out
Yeah.
how to.
And I feel like in the past, I don't know, maybe not in the past, but I feel like there was a day when academics and pastors would disagree about things, but didn't take it so darn personally, and
No.
and they continued to have deep friendship, so
Yeah.
that we could kind of do that and share it. Would be
Yeah,
great.
that'd be cool.
Yeah. So
Otherwise, you're going to hear about hospitals and
Yeah.
books, and
yeah.
we could tackle some controversial subjects, but we did that in all like the first.
We hit a
40.
lot of those.
I don't-
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
here's the thing: because we are supposed, we gather for breakfast. We don't just, you and I aren't just the type of guys that sit down and just are like controversial subject.
Right.
Constant. There's other
Yeah.
meaningful stuff that pastors and we as pastors
Like to
do.
talk
So
about.
it should. I feel like that should come up sometimes,
Yeah.
and other times
Not.
not. Yeah. Anyway, well, I guess maybe that's where we end. Anyway, from the cafeteria of TMC, thanks for joining us, and think about those pastors in your life and how often they're quite the jack of all trades, and say thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.